One of the most challenging things to do is have effective contact. And so in my course, I try to have a lot of instructor contact with students. So I have announcements in my course. I also am involved in discussions in my course, and I like to give feedback to the students when they complete assignments. However, one of the things that makes a course have an authentic feel is to not only have the instructor to student contact, but to have the student to student contact that isn't necessarily connected to an assignment.
The way I try to be regular and effective with my contact with students is by the use of discussion. In my face-to-face classes, discussion is a huge part of my pedagogical framework and takes up a lot of intellectual space in my classes. And online, I try to recreate that as much as possible by giving prompts that allow students to articulate their understanding and comprehension of weekly material. And then we engage by having the students engage with each other and myself.
One of the things that I value in my face-to-face classes is really having the students engage with each other and come up with ideas and share things. And I had a concern that moving that experience online would mean that everybody would be communicating and writing and not get to really see each other and get to know each other. So one of the ways that I decided to address that, of course I want to have them writing, but one of the ways that I decided to address that was by using a tool called Flipgrid. And I know that there are other tools that do this as well, but it allows students to very quickly respond in a discussion group setting, but on video. And so I asked them to do a particular discussion where they went on camera, and if they didn't want to go on camera, they didn't have to. There's an option to just say, I don't want to show my face, or to include a sticker, or just have your voice. And it was a way that everybody could, see some element of personality of everybody else, and I can also respond to this. And if I set it up in a certain way, they can leave short little videos for each other in response to the original video that a student left.
A couple of things that I do to have regular effective contact with students, especially on online classes, is I have virtual meetings. And so I ask students to fill out a doodle poll where they give me their availability. And every class I have has to have a mandatory virtual meeting. I also do virtual office hours, and so what that means is I'm logged into Zoom, and all of my students have my login password and access to Zoom conference, and so they can log in during those office hours and see me live. And so they set up for their kind of 15-minute time slots, but I do just keep it open if there's nobody in those time slots, and then students can log in.
I actually have several, and sometimes I combine them. And so up on the screen, what you're seeing is, this is a question that I pose to my students, which comes out of a very well-known essay that was written, and why have there been no women artists? And you can see that in this particular example, that in this period of the course, that there was quite a lot of engagement by the students. They did the reading, and then they were asked to respond. And one of the things that worked out really wonderful with this is that students not only liked the reading and were very engaged in the process, but I combined that with Zoom office hours. And this particular week, so this was one of the weekly discussions, that not only can you see that the students were engaged in this format, in the text format, but in the half hour that followed the Zoom session, I had 3 students who called in to ask questions and really further the discussion.
The thing I also do a lot is I actually give feedback on all of their homework, and they're surprised. They don't think that teachers necessarily are going to read them. They say, "Oh, are you actually reading our assignments?" I'm like, "Yeah, I am." And I use a lot of margin notes, which I like because this is personalized, right? So I have here basically, Sometimes I interact with them, sometimes I agree, so this is an assignment just kind of using a New York Times article called Older People Are Contributing to Climate Change. So they had to break some holes into the argument, which was very easy to do. And I told some of them, I said, you really should be writing for the New York Times because you're a lot better than this journalist here. So I have, they get the full points usually, and then this is just an end note. Miguel, a really fine job. What I especially like is that you point out how the author's information is really weak on statistical evidence. Obviously, he has an agenda. Doing well here. So this is the beginning of the course. So I have here, just again, side comments. This is not a really long project, but still I have feedback and I have general feedback.
The students will be able to access the materials online. So I tell my students they just go to the modules and they click on the materials, course content and materials. And if you click this, now what you see are the actual contents for that particular week. And the lecture content is the one that they need to look at, because if you click the lecture content, it will now give you the actual slides that I'll be talking about in the videos itself. So here is now an example right over here. So here are the slides that they are going to be following, and once they have downloaded this, now they can actually go to the videos right here. So this is now an example of the video, and now they are going to be following. So I'll just forward this just to show you what I mean by that. So this is now the videos that they're going to be watching, and here is our example of the videos that they have downloaded. So this is the actual slides right over here, and now this is the actual video that we have over here.
One of the things that I've gotten really positive feedbacks from my students that I do every week, early on Monday morning I get up and I change the home page of my website. The top of the home page is a link that takes them to the first page that would unfold into the rest of the week's readings and requirements. And on that first page, I have the deadlines that are due. So it would indicate the chapter they need to read, when it's due by, and then I have a link that actually goes to the homework project. So they can see right away what their requirements are. If they have to watch videos or what readings, they can kind of see what links are going to be helpful. Before they even start the reading, they get a sense of what the homework is.
For me, what works best is really making sure I stay alert to my Canvas inbox, because that's how I ask the students to contact me. And I will try to watch them, talk with them at least once in the morning and once in the evening, so that they're not sitting there wondering if I know what they want or know what they need. There's all kinds of ways that we can do it, but for me that works best for me and best for the students, because they're really into reading text and sending text. And as long as you get back to them within a reasonable time period, and really, to be honest, 24 hours is too long. Usually if they write you in the morning, they're hoping to hear from you by that night. And if they write you at night, they're hoping to hear from you the next morning.
Another way that I do effective communication is also having a question and answer discussion board. So students can post questions, general questions about an assignment, and then their colleagues can either answer, but I also then go and provide additional feedback if necessary. So I try to make my online classes feel like they see me face to face as much as possible, and those are some of the techniques and strategies that I use.
All of them over here, so all these will now be broken into parts. Rather than sitting in a classroom for an hour and 15 or an hour and 25 minutes to finish up the whole entire lecture, now I break it down into small pieces. So about 15 to 20 minutes per pieces, so that students, when they are tired, they could just stop it and then they just go somewhere and then pick it up where they left off.
So this allows me to connect with them personally. So I guess as a whole, I basically make things really clear. I use the announcements feature to bring people together, and then I also comment on their work. This also includes the discussion board as well. They're in the middle of the discussion board, so they're not, the deadline is not here yet. But I pretty much follow them along the whole class.
So in my online course, what I've done is I've designed a student discussion board. I give the students extra credit points to go onto this student discussion board, and they talk about anything related to the class, anything related to their experience during the semester, or maybe just things that are happening on the college campus. And so on this student discussion board, the students are able to talk to each other, collaborate, ask questions, and some of them have even came to campus and had a conversation with each other in a real life experience. And so with this student-to-student contact, I also jump in on the board and discuss with them information in the class or help them with things that they're not understanding. But it gives the classroom a real, authentic feel, the same thing that you would do after class in a face-to-face traditional classroom setting. The students are able to experience that inside of their online course. And so I love to do that as a way to have the engagement and add that student-to-student component along with my instructor engagement.